All right, motion made and second to nominate Ms. Jorgensen. David made the motion and Gary got a second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, superintendent has a statement to make.
Candy?
And do we, let me clarify, Ms. Crawford is not going to be available by phone. Is that correct? Okay, just for the record.
I had no idea.
Okay, the statement, July 24th, 2018, in accordance with section 200.065, chapter 1010 and chapter 1011 Florida statutes, I am submitting the proposed tentative balanced budget for 2018-19 and am recommending the proposed millage to be levied. The purpose of today's meeting is to approve the 2018-19 proposed tentative budget and proposed millage for advertising and to set the date, time, and place of the first public hearing on our budget. That meeting will be Thursday, August 2nd, 2018 at 5:05 p.m. in the school board meeting room.
And then need to make a motion, Madam Chairman, or?
No, I think that we need the presentation of the documents for submission
That's right.
to the
Ron,
newspaper.
read them. I'm still in shock that he texted me 3 o'clock and I got here at 3:30.
We're glad you're here.
I'm bad. That's bad.
Okay, as Rick mentioned, the purpose of today's meeting is to follow trim guidelines and request approval to advertise the tentative balanced budget in the newspaper. The 3 documents that you have in front of you are what will actually be placed in the newspaper, and it'll be coming out on Saturday. We will publish a notice of proposed tax increase that will notify the general public of our first public hearing on the budget on August 2nd at 5:05 p.m. We will publish a notice of tax for school capital outlay, and we will publish the budget summary ad that is a condensed version of our entire budget. So I want to talk briefly about the documents that will be in the paper, because the first is the notice of proposed tax increase, and this is the first time in many, many, many years that we are having to publish a notice of proposed tax increase instead of a notice of budget hearing. And I'll briefly explain that to you. What I want to do is pass out to you a copy of the rollback rate. If you'll take one and pass it down. The rollback rate, of course, as you know, is the millage rate that it would take to bring into the district the same amount of tax revenues as we received last year. Our rollback rate from the handout, you can see the first column is 6.0167, and our 2018-2019 millage rate is 6.1550. This is an increase of 0.1383 mills from the rollback rate, and yet it's a reduction overall of actual mills, if you'll look at page 2, from last year's millage rate of 0.199 actual mills. Last year our millage was 6.354. This year we've gone down to 6.155, all attributable to the required local effort, which is the rate that is set by the Florida legislature. But since we have an increase in the rollback rate, and that is due to the increase in our overall property tax valuation in Putnam County. So the 6.1550 mills that we are implementing this year and are required to implement will bring in 102.3% of the tax revenues that were brought in last year, only because our property valuations in Putnam County has gone up. So if you'll look at page 3 of that rollback handout, you'll see, I hate the words are going to be in the paper that it's a proposed tax increase, because millage has gone down. If a person's home value stays the same, if you'll look at the column for, say, $100,000, if their home is valued at $100,000 and it stays the same based on their Save Our Homes or whatever they have in place, they'll actually see a decrease of $14.93 on school property taxes that they pay. So again, they will not have a tax increase from us on school property taxes, but it's mainly due to new properties being on the rolls. If someone sold a property that had been valued at $40,000 and when it sells, the new owner, it gets bumped up to what they gave for it, $100,000. That's one of the ways our tax values increase, and that's why we're having to advertise this way. So the superintendent had thought that Felicia and I could come up with a press release, and after these ads hit the paper, maybe we'll have something out there that'll explain why it's called a notice of property tax increase when actually our millage rates are going down. Anything to help the public understand that, because really we are lowering our millages yet again. This has been many years in a row.
I think they're brighter than you give them credit. But it's hard, you can get, like you say, 4 or 5 sales can really impact property value, and I think that's very misleading, but that's the way it works.
It's the way it works, and there's just no way around
The
that.
explanation, because it's going to say school board tax
Increase, yes, ma'am. And I talked to the Department of Revenue Monday, and there's just no way around it. They use the DR 420S that we receive from the property tax appraiser's office, and that determines our rollback rate, and it determines that we have a tax increase. So the second item that will be advertised in the paper is the notice of tax for school capital outlay. It mentions that we are again proposing the 1.5 mils for capital outlay purposes, and it tells how we might possibly spend that money that this 1.5 mil generates. We did receive a 1-year moratorium on having to share these funds with the charter schools, as we had to last year. And so that's not on the table this year, but overall this 1.5 mils brings in $5,847,417 to the district for capital needs. And to just give you a quick update on how we're spending that, we're going to fund the maintenance department at $3.3 million. We provide the schools with the $400,000 of discretionary funds split out based on square footage and age of building. We're paying an allowed portion of our property insurance premiums, $485,897. We're paying the current year portion of the master purchase agreement on the buses and the master purchase agreement on the energy retrofit project. And after all of that, the balance that's left from this millage is $667,562 that the district maintenance department can use for renovation and repair for needs above those that the maintenance department can handle on their own. And the third and final document required to be placed in the newspaper for advertisement is the big Excel sheet. That's our budget summary ad. As you can see from that ad, the first column, our current operating budget is $96.3 million, and our entire budget, which includes NEFEC's internal and enterprise funds, is $178.8 million. As the general fund is the main operating fund of the district, I always call your attention to the year-end fund balance and the projected coming up year-end fund balance. So if you'll notice in the first column, about middle of the page where it says fund balances on July 1st, the general fund had a $9,751,887.44 fund balance. We had tightened our belt. We had more roll back in. Plus, we had a couple of revenue sources. We received more, we collected more in Medicaid administrative claiming and fee for services, and we had a really good tax deed sale and collected more there also than we had budgeted. And both of those sources had been down the prior year. We really had a bad, when they do the tax deed sale last year, they didn't have a good result, and so we really didn't collect more than we had budgeted, and we have to budget at 96%. We also received better interest income due to our revamped investment strategy and better indirect revenue. Though I'd budgeted at the current indirect rate, we had more expenditures in some federal grants in the prior year, so that helped some. So I'm going to hand out this little normal handout that I do that explains how that fund balance of $9.7 million is broken down. We had, that is comprised of a reserve for project balances within the general fund of $2.6 million, a reserve for encumbrances, that's carryover purchase orders and is money already spoken for, $245,242, A reserve for inventory, which is the value of our inventory on hand and is not a cash item, of $476,953. We've got our carryover 3% mandated unreserved fund balance from the 2017-18 year of $2,453,564. We've got that built-up unreserved fund balance that we were able to add last year of $792,400.93. And the amount of money that rolled back to the pot after all revenues received and budgets closed was $3,111,016. Now, $1.9 million rolled back last year, but with all those additional revenue sources that I talked about coming in, mainly this additional 1.2 that came in was mainly attributable to those 4 revenue sources that I spoke about.
Excuse me, Rhonda, can you clarify the difference between 2710 and 2700?
Yes, 2,700 is just unreserved fund balance. And I've got those 3.
Mandated.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Reserve for project balances?
That is-
That's like accounts payable, so to speak?
No, project balances, there's about 80-plus projects within the general fund. A lot of them are state categoricals, leftover textbook money, leftover reading program money.
Has to stay within their category.
Has to stay within the category, yes, ma'am. Mhm. And then the 2,700, you don't have to break it up like that, but I broke it up so we could see the different things that are within that.
So does this mean we have a $4 million unreserved fund balance at this point?
At June
Roughly
30th,
four.
at June 30th, we did.
June 30th, we had about.
Yes.
That's
So then,
amazing.
yes, it is. But after we incorporated this June 30th fund balance and included all budgeted revenues and expenditures for the new year, you'll see that I'm estimating $5,518,947.77 June 30th, 2019 year-end fund balance. Your handout will show down at the bottom how that's broken down. I budgeted reserves for FEFP cuts for McKay scholarships, a prior year FTE audit, and that's where they come in and they audit transportation and teacher certification and things like that. There's always a small finding every year, and we've already been notified. I think it's actually 49,000 and something there, but I budgeted that 50,000. I've budgeted a possible FTE shortfall due to student count, and we had to use every bit of that last year. We were down 100 students last year, if y'all will recall. And I've budgeted a reserve for possible proration to funds available in the state FEFP calculations. They didn't hit us too hard last year, but they've been known to take up just about every bit of that in prior years.
Excuse me, Rhonda, are you budgeting for a reduction in students again this year?
Yes, ma'am. It's $300,000 on there. You'll see it.
That's
Contingency
the same as
reserve.
last year, kind of?
Yes, ma'am.
Declining
I did the
in-
same amount as last year.
It's going to be more, but
Oh, I hope not, but yeah, I've budgeted the 300,000. Let's see, and after all the budgeted expenditures and reserves are taken into consideration, and having everybody's budgets in, the cuts we incorporated over a year ago and the carryover reserves and the increase in revenue received allowed us to again add to our unreserved fund balance. If you recall, we put back $792,084 last year, and I was able to add another $742,084 this year. With everything we put in place and with the small amount of additional dollars, flexible dollars we received from the state, we're able to provide the automatic steps for our instructional and classified personnel. We were able to reduce that annual overspend. We were able to set aside some to help offset the effects of House Bill 7069 on our Title I district level needs. We were able to set aside for the School of Rigor from LSI for Mosley and the LSI external operator for Mosley. Those two together were $500,000, $298,000 and $199,000 something. And we were able to add to the projected fund balance, like I mentioned. So the totality of our current projected reserves for this coming June 30th is a 6.7% financial condition ratio. However, we will definitely pay out the McKay and the FTE audit reserves. So with those reserves going away during the year, even if we have a loss of students and a proration of FELP revenue that totally wipes out those other two reserves, I expect to have a 4.8 financial condition ratio at the end of the year. And if we do not have the loss of students or the FELP proration, we would actually have a 5.5% financial condition ratio ending the year. So we've definitely stopped the downward trend, and I'm very thankful and appreciative of everybody helping to make that a priority. At the first public hearing on the budget that's scheduled for Tuesday, August the 2nd at 5:05, if you all want to, we'll go into greater detail on the budget, function, object, cost centers. I'll provide more detailed printout so you can see where everything is being proposed to be spent. You'll have a chance at that meeting to amend the budget as you see fit.
Can I clarify, Thursday, August 2nd?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did say Tuesday. August the 2nd is the correct date, yes, sir. And at that meeting, we'll also set the date, time, and place for the final public hearing on the budget at that meeting, and they'll send out the property tax notices that'll have that date stamped on it. One final thing before we go that I want to pass out, and I've passed this out in the past also. It's a general fund budget spreadsheet. That's how I start the budgeting process. It's got every revenue that we're receiving in the general fund budgeted to receive, and every expenditure broken down into categories, transfers in, sources of the revenue, transfers in, fund balances, as well as expenditures broken down into salary, benefits, categoricals, charter school share, operational costs, departmental budgets, initiatives, and they are all showing the percentages of recurring revenue. So that I'm not going to go over in detail today. I want you to take it and look at it. You can call or email me or come by if you have questions about it, and it might help prepare you for the tentative budget hearing also, as you can see where it's broken down and we're spending the money. And as today's meeting is really only to seek permission to advertise the proposed budget that will be presented at the first hearing, I'm seeking your approval to place the 3 documents that you have in the Palatka Daily News to be published on Saturday.
We need a roll call vote. So I'll start by saying advertise. Advertise. Each board member has said advertise. Is there anything else, Ms. Cummings?
That's all I've got.
Before I adjourn, I just want to say how lucky we are to have that lady over there. We really, really have been lucky for
Thank you.
many years. She's very conservative, and she always keeps us in the black. Is that what it is, right? Always. She's just amazing.
Well, Madam Chair, if I could
appreciate
echo
that.
what you're saying, yeah, I think we're a much healthier district than we were a couple years ago.
yeah.
Very
Our
much.
fund balance is increasing, and, we're going to be in a position to do a lot of things here in the next few months or next few years, but I also want to commend our board. I mean, we've had to make some tough decisions on many items, but I think, going into next year, I think we're in good shape, a lot better than we originally anticipated, I think.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
And there being no further business, I now adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.